a bit of delay, some technical things to handle. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. As usual, we start from the global space, and once again, the program is coming to you from our studio at the NGX in Marina, Lagos. So we'll start from the global space, telling you that oil prices hovered near a two-week low on Tuesday after weak economic data from China and warming weather forecasts elsewhere soared the demand outlook. Brent futures we see gained 12 cents, that's about 0.2%, to $77.20 a barrel, while WTI, the United States West Texas Intermediate Crude, gained 10 cents, and that's about 0.1%, to $73.27. Brent settled on Monday at its lowest since January 9, while it hit its lowest in January the 2nd. China, the world's largest importer of crude oil, reported an unexpected contraction in manufacturing activity. That happened for January, and then that adds fresh concerns over global crude demand growth. Overnight falls came on the back of weak Chinese PMI we talked about that was released yesterday, Monday. China's crude oil demand is also expected to be hit by the President Trump's hammer, you know, the sanctions on Russia oil trade, and analysts are seeing that refineries in Shandong losing up to 1 million barrels per day of crude supply in the near term amid that ban that was imposed on Shandong Ports Group. Now we see the Naira and some exciting news there. We see that on the NAFEX platform, the Naira gained 7 Naira 72 kobo, settling at 1,541 Naira 50 kobo. That was a positive kickoff for the week for the Naira. On end firm, it was relatively calm. Enough supply, though, is being reported to meet demand from market participants. Most trades were executed within 1,530 and 1,540 on Monday, and expectation is that there won't be a major move from this range of 1,540 and 1,560 in the coming days. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has released the Nigeria Foreign Exchange Code, and they say it's to reduce risk and enhance the country's financial sector. The code is based on global best practices, according to the CBN, and it aims to improve market transparency. So we see the central bank, you know, introducing subtly one way or the other some platforms and policies and strategies to bring or to win the confidence of Nigerians more about the Naira and to block those leakages when it comes to FX. Perhaps that's why we've seen a level of stability in the value of the Naira. Now, the Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, as well as the telecommunications companies, they've ruled out any extension to the deadline for banks to settle their unstructured supplementary service data, you know, the USSD. Issues around the debts has been on for a while, a lot of threats and all of that. Well, now the NCC and telecoms company, they said there'll be no extension for banks to pay up their debts. Their decision leaves defaulting lenders scrambling to meet deadline by the close of trade on Monday. Initially, 9 banks were in arrears, but by Friday, the number had dropped to 7, and that's according to telcos. And these only 2 lenders have made payments by Monday's close. One bank indicated its intention to settle, and this unfolding development follows a directive issued by the telecom regulator that happened January 15, warning 9 banks to clear their debts or risk losing access to USSD codes. And of course, at the end of the day, it is the consumers that will suffer this. Well, we do know that, of course, the telcos now have approval for 50% hike. NLC is threatening strike. We'll see where we go from there. Let's talk about this and a whole lot more right here in the studio with Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo. She's the manager, Financial Derivatives Company. Dr. Nwokolo, good morning, and thank you for joining us here at our NGX studio.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Ini.
Yeah, so financial derivatives, Mr. Arani, has been one of those hyping and asking for the telcos to get an increase in tariff, and finally they have it. So, but all the dust is not settled yet. We've seen threat from NLC and all of that. But what do you see in the telcos after this? Does it bring more quality? Is it just going to be business as usual? What do you see?
Of course, we are going to see quality, because before now, you can be making a call and all of a sudden it's gone. But with this tariff increment, I think there will be an improvement in services and also an improvement in their income, because over the time they've been calling for addressing the issue of losses when it comes in terms of their profits. And we know quite well that people that invested in MTN have not had what we call their revenue, or how do I put it? They've not been given their buffer at the end of the day, at the end of the day, because they don't have, they've been having losses, and this will have impact on the government as well, because you cannot expect a company that is declaring losses to pay taxes at the end of the day. So I'm going to see there's going to be an improvement in taxes at one hand. Another one, there's going to be an improvement in telecoms, in their services, and I think it's going to also boost services of industry, because most sectors now depend on this telecom for services, like what you and I is doing now. If there's no telecom service, we cannot do this. So it's going to boost that.
Well, hopefully we look for a boost in that. But a worrying thing is the reserve, Nigeria's reserve. We saw a huge drop, I think, at the close of last week. What's going on in that area?
So for the reserve, let's not forget that we suddenly saw an increase in reserve last year, and that was as a result of hot money, FPI, because of our interest rate differential. We had an interest rate differential because we hiked interest rates by over 800 basis points, and you see influx of FPI investing in Nigeria, and this boosted our reserve last year. And I was asking the question, is this sustainable? Of course, hot money is not sustainable. It comes hot, over time it withers away. So that's what we are seeing. And the reason for this is because there has been pressure in the FX market, pressure for importation. People want to, buy commodities, because we just had dirty December. People spent a lot buying commodities, of course, and we need importation to replace these commodities, because Nigeria is an import-dependent nation. So unfortunately, so we need that. And secondly, students, diaspora students in diaspora, we want to pay school fees. So there's pressure to pay school fees. Of course, our brothers and sisters that came back from the diaspora to spend Christmas and going back. So all of these brought pressure in the FX market.
On the reserve.
Yes, or the reserve. And we learned a lesson here. We have to begin to diversify our economy from a mono-sector economy, depending so much on oil. And oil, in recent time, has not been doing too well. We have seen a decline in the prices of global oil by over 2%. We have seen a decline in the price of cocoa by close to 2%. We have seen a decline in the price of natural gas by over 6%. So all of this has not been able, we don't be able to have like a boost on the reserve, because we don't have enough foreign earnings. And this has a problem that will create a ripple effect on the economy. It's going to impact you. It's going to affect you and I at the end of the day, because when there is not enough reserve to address the pressure in the foreign markets, you know what it means. There's going to be volatility of the currency, making Naira weak. And when Naira is weak, what happens?
Purchasing power reduces and all of that. Well, we do hope that the impact of the dirty December will soon be over. But thank you so much, Dr. Ifeoma Okolo, Manager of Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you.
All right, so the president, we told you yesterday how the summit in Tanzania has started. The president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says that 145 million Africans will have access to electricity by 2030. This is the dream of AfDB working with the World Bank. But Dr. Additional made this known at that Mission 300 Africa Energy Summit. And the AfDB president stresses the importance of collaboration between African leaders and development organizations to make this dream a reality.
First and foremost is their countries. So it's got to be country-led actions that actually shows that they are going to deliver electricity to their people. And secondly is that being their country, they have to increase the budget from their own fiscal budget to support infrastructure, power generation, power transmission, power distribution. They are the ones that are going to make sure that they fill the last mile connectivity there to make sure that people actually have access to electricity. We have to make sure that we have good independent utilities, procurement systems that are transparent, that are competitive. We've got to make sure that we're looking at least cost basis of generating and transmitting energy. We've got to make sure, Ajay mentioned the whole issue of regional distribution. It's not just each country, it's regional transmission lines and make sure the regional power pools are working. So those are the kind of things that they have to do. And two things we are expecting from this particular summit is that the energy compact for each of the countries will be signed. We have 13 countries that are going to be part of that, and that will allow us to do 145 million people with access to electricity by 2030.
Yeah, so that's it, the talk about energy. And yesterday we had a conversation right here with Mr. George Etomi. I mean, nobody needs to be told the need for energy if we are serious about development. This morning we also have here the executive chairman of Nigerian Capital Development Fund, Mr. Hareta Oralusi. He is talking about entrepreneurship and empowerment, but we know that we cannot have a successful conversation or even as we speak without electricity or energy. So good morning, Dr. Oralusi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So there's a summit going on at Tanzania now. We have heads of state, the AfDB, World Bank, they're all there talking about lighting Africa. They aim for 300 million Africans by 2030 to have electricity. You talk about entrepreneurship and empowerment using resources of different kinds. But we do know at the core of even your conversation or your work is the energy and electricity. Does your fund look at that aspect, or do you just look at, the raw materials and the personality?
No. We look at it critically. Without energy, it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to succeed in Nigeria. You need basically energy for anything. And in view of that, we created a subsidiary called Grosvenor Energy Nigeria Limited. And we've been able to partner with EGA Energy the UK. And ourselves and EGA Energy, we've been able to get funding over $500 million for Nigeria.
Does it get to
renewable
the people,
energy.
Does it get to the people down there? Because some of these things seem to be so elitist that it doesn't get to, when we talk about the rural people, for instance, entrepreneurs, not the big guys, but the small guys.
Yes. That is critical for us because we are impact investing company, we are impact investing organization. And what that means is that our investors are not only looking for financial return, but also the social impact. So we must be able to provide good financial return and be able also to provide very clear strategy of our social impact in community. So we look for two things in every investment we make. So if we don't invest in the grassroots or something that touch the bottom of the society, that means we are not making impact.
But when you talk about incentive for this investment, and you did talk about financial incentive, it doesn't seem like we can have that much in the rural, at the grassroots.
No, there are a lot of sustainable investment that can be done at the grassroots.
Let's get some.
There are quite a lot. I'll give you an example. When we heard about the UCH crisis, where a young student doesn't even have energy since November or something, and they can't even go to class, and the whole hospital. I was at the UCH yesterday. We met the medical directors, and we met the board, the team working on the energy. Yes, and we promise to resolve it. And we promise to build about 5 megawatts station in a sustainable model, because they have revenue to pay. But their problem is what they are paying now, which they call band A, is so expensive for them. So, and if we are able to provide a sustainable energy, a renewable energy that is very cost effective, then they're happy to pay. So, and they have inflow from revenue for medical treatment. So if they have the inflow, we can do a financial plan, we can do a repayment model, they can give us off-takers guarantee for a certain number of years. Then we would prefer to put it there, because it's going to impact the patient, it's going to impact the student, and it's going to impact the institution. So that is the type of renewable energy we're looking into. We're not looking into investing in energy for VI or ECOE. No, that's not what we're looking for. And we're also currently working with rural electrification agency of Nigeria, where we identify certain community where about between 2 and 5 megawatt renewable energy stations can be built, and then attach it to the institutions that have revenues that can pay for their services.
Interesting. What about agriculture? I'm always so interested in agriculture, because food security is the foundation of every other thing.
Yes, the biggest challenge with agriculture right now for us is the security. Because you see, we have a lot of cluster investment model, where we look at certain area, what is common, and we try to invest in that area, in those cluster locations. So we used to invest in agriculture more in the northern part of the country. So the insecurity there actually has cost us so much. In view of that, we couldn't do much at the moment. So we are now planning to re-strategize. And
but sorry to interrupt you. They do say that, I mean, you can make lemonade out of lime. Shouldn't the insecurity challenge be another opportunity for investment and you know?
The challenge we have basically is that, you see, in investment, there are 3 things in Nigeria that is critical for us as challenge. 1, human capacity development is a big challenge. 2, we talk about capital. 3, long-term investment is not encouraged. So there is no really equity market in terms of grassroots. It's more of debt, debt financing in Nigeria. Equity markets, I'm talking for startups like you mentioned, people at the base. I'm not talking of the top companies, I'm not talking of multinational companies. But when you're looking at the grassroots, you must be able to have serious equity markets, venture capital, private equity companies that of the grassroots people, startup companies, early stage companies, which we don't have. So in view of that, we do not just give, and if you want to now work in the grassroots or startup companies and you want to give them money, just giving them the equity and letting them go and run it on their own is like a suicide. You are just going to, so we have to build the capacity, help them to understand how it works, what they need to do, the risk management part of it. And at the end of the day, it takes a while before you finally hand over to them to go. So our challenge is that the same thing happens to project, because we do 2 things. We work on the startup and work on sustainable projects, which is run by our subsidiary companies. And our funds works on we have different funds that works on the startups. So the challenge is the technical expertise that comes in to start the project or to help the startups. They have a lot of critical issues when it comes to going to the north in the recent time.
Because of insecurity?
Yes, so we don't just go and do the investment and leave it for the people. It's going to come back to the same. You're actually going to build debt on their neck, because you're adding to their problem. They need capacity to be able to do it.
But we have a lot of NGOs and all of that say that they do a lot of these skills and empowerment. Even some banks, I've spoken to some banks, there's also like the Bank of Industry, where they do empowerment of knowledge in the process as a requirement for giving out these loans.
No, there are a lot of institutions doing that now. Yeah, of course. Nigeria is growing. Our economy is, we have a lot of overlap issues right now, but the current situation, the current strategy by the government is good. It's in the right direction. But definitely it will take its time before it can override what we have been facing, the pilot that we already have. So that is the problem. A lot of institutions are becoming more responsible. We are actually reaching out to a lot of institutions to come and partner with us that, look, even if you cannot do it, we have the mechanisms to apply this. You will gain financial returns, and at the same time, you will also be able to impact the society from the same investment. So we are reaching out and we are getting a lot of corporations from different private and public sector who are very interested in that. This is a very good model. So private, public, both of them are really doing the right thing now. But don't forget, there were a lot of issues before now, and which cannot be cleared overnight. So, but if we are able to run this successfully in the next 4 years, I'm sure Nigerians will be very happy.
And I hear you say at the background, deal with the issue of insecurity.
Yes, very, very critical. Look, we can read news yesterday where it was announced that over 22 military officers were killed. That is sad to hear. So there is nobody that will be comfortable that a military officer with gun and everything was killed, and you want to just move in there to go and do something. It's not logical. So the government needs to really, because it affects our business in the north. So I follow up with the military. I follow up with the chief of defense staffs all the time to see what they're doing, and it's one of the special guys that I see in this time. Really ready to do the right thing, very sincere, and very practical. So I'm sure with the effort and his team, things will improve also in terms of security. I think they are, and if it has been done this manner before, we won't be in this situation.
All right, optimism for 2025. Like many others that I've spoken with. Thank you so much, Executive Chairman of Nigerian Capital Development Fund, Mr. Hareta Oralinsi. Thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you so much. All
right, so there you have it. Another concern for insecurity. As a lot of people would say, Nigeria doesn't lack the funds. They have the ideas, they have the fund, but I guess it's the environment, the ease of doing business, the infrastructure. And at this time also, unfortunately, we have to add insecurity to that. And, well, hopefully we will get it right. A lot of optimism building around 2025. So hopefully we would have some of those questions answered, and that would help the country to move forward. I have to head you back now to the Sunrise Daily Studio, but I tell you that the NGX was greatly positive yesterday, 0.79%, and we have gone beyond the 103,000 level to 104. So a great one that we had yesterday at the close of trade. Banking, trust them, the most liquid counter was up 4.71%, almost 5%, and of course the figures drove that. Another good one yesterday was the consumer goods also good. So you want to look for some of those places to invest for the year. Perhaps by the end of 2025 you'll be counting some money that you have, or profit that you have made. That's the much we can take. Ladi will be here at 1 p.m. In the studio, not here at the NGX. So I hand you back now to the Sunrise Daily Studio.